Welcome to Flow with the Grow. I'm your host, Sophia, a health and fitness professional, positivity distributor, and a real-life human being with real-life challenges. Every Tuesday, you'll hear my honest conversations on the day-to-day highs and lows that life teaches us, as well as bring you actionable tips that you can implement to improve your health and wellness journey. This podcast will empower you to flow with the inevitable setbacks of life. You will learn what it means to flow with the grow, see through a lens of optimism, and navigate your way to living your best life. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Now let's jump into your daily dose of positivity and growth. Hey, hi, hello, welcome back. I am so stoked for you to listen to today's episode. I think you're really going to resonate with it. I think you're going to resonate with at least a few things, but especially if you struggle with seasonal depression. Especially if you are a guy and you struggle with depression, seasonal depression, you struggle with sharing your emotions, your feelings, with being open about them, talking about them, and especially if you are a guy and you feel like you can't cry, or you don't want to because you don't want to be seen as weak. This is for you. And I think anyone and everyone who listens to this can resonate with this or find value in it in some way. And by the way, if you do, I would super appreciate it if you would please leave a rating and review, and just to get the message out there by sharing this on social media, tag me. And I always love reading the reviews and just knowing how my episodes specifically help you. So in last week's episode, I talked more about seasonal depression and my perspective and different tips that I think I gave like 3 tips, but then also tips and tricks and ideas from my social media community and people who struggle with it a lot more than I do. And then I had a friend, Ian is his name. He reached out saying that he would be more than willing to come on the show and talk about it because it's something that he struggles with a lot and has struggled with it in the past. And he was open to sharing his experiences with depression, seasonal depression, and how he handles it, kind of his perspective on it all. We even talk about feelings and emotions and him being so open to sharing them and why you need to, and even we get into crying. We don't actually cry on the episode, but he talks about his perspective on the whole guys and male stereotype and masculinity and all of that. And with that being a problem in today's society where crying is seen as weak. So instantly, when he reached out and commented saying that he would be willing to come on and talk about it, I instantly was like, yes, hell yes. This is a great idea just to have a conversation about it with someone else who does struggle with it, because I really feel like I don't as much as a lot of other people who do. And so he is someone that I knew back in college. I used to work at a bar, and that's kind of where I think through that and just other friends, just kind of knowing of each other. And then he was a member at Anytime Fitness. So friends and kind of acquaintances, and of course Facebook keeps everyone connected, which is amazing. So he saw that and offered to come on, and now you're gonna get to hear his side of the story of seasonal depression, how he has handled it in the past, tips that or takeaways. So towards the end, he gives 4 key takeaways for someone who does struggle with things like this, and a few things that we decided that, or he said that he wanted you guys to take away from listening to this episode, to walk away with some sort of tangible thought process and inspiration and action, to take action doing. Before we get into that though, I want to share 3 messages, things that have come up, and I think that you're also going to really resonate with this, because 3 super important messages that can also be related to this time, this season, seasonal depression. Number one, this is actually a motivation message, quite the opposite of what you are maybe used to. So this is a message to know and to be okay with having some sad days, being sad some days, wanting to cry, just feeling down, feeling low, having a low vibe day without really even having a specific reason. And maybe there are multiple reasons. And maybe they all come crashing down into your brain at once, like they do for me. So recently, I woke up and all flipping day, I felt this intense need to cry. Like I can tell I needed to cry. I could feel it from the moment I woke up at 7 a.m. until I actually did cry, and not really even having a specific reason. Like sometimes like I said, I wake up and I'm kind of in a low vibe kind of state, even when I do things that make me super happy and joyful. And even when I take action in doing things to help kind of combat this feeling low state, like doing things that normally make me happy, or I think about things I'm grateful for. Like I do all the things to try and not force away the feeling, but just to have a little bit of more joy into my day and not focus on those negative feelings. I accept what I'm feeling, but sometimes I just kind of have that. And after leaving work, walking out of the gym, I sat in my car, and songs, I don't know if this is for you as well, but songs speak to me. It's pretty crazy, like just lyrics and things that come up, and I'm just like, wow, I really needed to hear that. But anyways, I was sitting in my car, and a song was on that I had never heard before. And basically the message was that the universe has your back. Everything that's happening right now is happening for a reason. I sat in my car and bam, I cried. The tears started rolling down my face. And this isn't a bad thing. If you're a guy, if you're a girl, this is not a bad thing. And you're not alone. This happens. I think it happens to people more often than what we even think or realize, because people aren't sharing that side of their life, especially on social media. But crying is also healing for us. It's good. It's a good thing. It is healing, and we need to feel those feelings and let them out. And even if you can't pinpoint a specific reason, like I said, maybe there are multiple reasons, you can be sad without justifying why. You can feel the need to cry, and you can cry without justifying why. It's okay to be sad. And I just felt like I needed to put this out there, to share this message. And especially during this time when maybe you are experiencing that seasonal depression, maybe it is amplified for you this year, especially with everything going on. Just know that what you're feeling is valid. And whether it is good or bad, like those, especially the maybe negative feelings, feeling down, it'll pass. And then this brings me to my next message. And it's that even during this season of seasonal depression, or this season of maybe kind of going through hell, if you are someone who is struggling with COVID, family members, or it's your job has, you've maybe lost your job, or really anything, I think we all kind of are experiencing 2020 in a different way, and we all have different days that are down, and it all just looks different for all of us. But also this season of feeling down, or having that seasonal depression, or any days in your weeks where you feel low without really having a specific reason why, there's always or multiple powerful lessons and growing opportunities if you look for them, and if you intentionally are aware of this concept. And the future version of you will be grateful for that. We'll be grateful for this time if we can take some awareness into this season, into those down days, those low vibe days, and really intentionally thinking about what lesson is there for you now that maybe you don't realize is happening for a reason, but you know that your future self will be grateful for whatever it is you're going through, whatever it is you're growing through. And you're also gonna be able to hear Ian's take on what it means to flow with the grow. He gives a different perspective, and that's towards the end of the episode, but I'm excited for you to listen to that part as well. But you are going through this time, you are growing through this time, and when you come out of this, you will be stronger. You will be more resilient. The growth in life doesn't come when everything is easy and happy and sunshines and rainbows and peace signs and love. No, the growth comes out of these down low vibe days or weeks or months. But also please just remember that there is so much support and love around you. You can control your thoughts and your behaviors and how you react to different situations and experiences. And you also have the choice to see that you can grow through times like these. And if you're someone who maybe you're the complete opposite, you don't struggle with this seasonal depression, you don't get down, and you're in a time in your life where things are just going awesome and just high vibe. And that is so great. That is something that you just need to ride out and continue that momentum, but also share that light, be that light for other people in this world and for those around you. And the last message is this: the more you know somebody, the better you can love them. Same goes with yourself. I want you to write this down and reread it. The more you know somebody, the better you can love them. Same goes with yourself. I'll just leave it at that. I could go into an explanation of that, but it's pretty powerful, just those words and reading it. I got this from an Instagram page called We're Not Really Strangers, and I'll link that in the show notes. But I signed up for their text messages, and just every day or every other day or something, they will just send a message, like a quote. And if you go to their page, it's things and quotes and perspectives that kind of make you go, oh, damn, like, holy shit, that's kind of a mind-blowing perspective, like something that you've never really thought about before, and just kind of makes you think different. And so I highly recommend checking them out. And so that's enough of me talking. Let's get into the episode, into the conversation with Ian. I had such a fun time talking with him and hearing his side of the story and his experience, and he gets real, he's honest, he shares some tips and things that you can take away from this and hopefully be a little more inspired and help you navigate this time in your life right now. And again, please make sure to rate and review the show. It definitely helps it grow. And then also letting me know, if you know Ian, let Ian know, and how this episode specifically helped you, what takeaways you have from what he shares. And as always, I appreciate you tuning in and listening. And with that, let's get into the episode. Okay, so first off, I just want to say thank you for being here and taking time out of your day to come and chat with me. I would love it if you would first start by just kind of sharing who you are, what you do. We talked a little bit before I pressed record, but what do you do? And just start with that.
Yeah, so my name is Ian Vizina. I work for A&B Business as a technology consultant, which is essentially just an outside sales rep for the Brookings and Watertown area.
Nice. And how long have you been doing that?
Yeah, I actually just moved from Brookings to Sioux Falls and started working there about 2.5 months ago.
Okay. And so the main thing that I kind of want to bring on and talk to you about is seasonal depression. Tell us more about, like, when did you first start to feel like this seasonal depression, or just kind of give me a rundown of your experience in the very beginning. Did you know that it was this seasonal depression, seasonal affective disorder, or did it just kind of tell us more about that?
Yeah, so my roots with this actually come from actual depression. So when I had a personal experience happen about 5 years ago or so that kind of broke down my psyche a little bit, and took me off of my own pedestal. And afterwards, I struggled and I had to overcome it, and I got diagnoses with depression and with anxiety. The problem with having depression and experiencing seasonal depression is it amplifies it. So you notice it more often. So I would say that my personal experience goes to about 3 years ago. It was 5 years ago that I got diagnosed with depression, but about 3 years ago where I could actually start to recognize seasonal depression, where I was consciously aware that something was off or something was going wrong.
Because it got worse during the wintertime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so what did you do? Like, did you do anything to help with this seasonal depression? Like, did you start to do things? Was it medication? Did you not really do anything about it?
Yeah. So the medication is like a big topic for me too. When I got diagnosed with actual depression, they put me on medication. But I've always been a kind of like a firm believer in medication is good, but you shouldn't rely on it. So over time, I started learning how to develop habits and routines and understanding what my triggers were for actual depression and learning how to overcome those. So with seasonal depression, it was kind of understanding, okay, well, this is going to be a little bit more amplified. So you're going to have to focus on, okay, what's triggering it? Is it the lack of, for example, one of my big hobbies is golf. Is it the lack of golf? You don't have anything to expend energy on after work? Is it poor eating habits, or is your eating habits related to the seasonal depression? You know, it's sticking to the routine for me was kind of my medication in a sense, was making sure that I identified it and then was conscientious of my efforts to prevent it.
Okay. So I love how you said habits and finding what triggers you in this like seasonal depression. Because I think that even like in normal life with any habits we have that we want to change, we have to find that trigger to stop that cycle. And so for you, it sounds like just finding more things that you like doing. So golf, the hobbies, and how you eat, right? And did you ever go to seek help, like therapy or anything like that?
Yeah, I think when 5 years ago, when that 2-year period there where I was struggling with actual depression, when I actually started to go get help was in the winter because it amplified, right? Without my knowledge, I wasn't conscious of it. But that's when I went to actually get help. I had to. I was having panic attacks. I couldn't get my own head clear. It was so foggy. I was so lost and out of control that it was really hard for me to stay stable. So that was actually when I had to truly go get help.
Okay, so like counseling, therapist, or what who'd you seek help through?
Yeah, so most of it was just a medical provider. I had to go see like a neural specialist in Sioux Falls just because my mom's a doctor and she kind of has connections, and she wanted me to go talk to this person to see what would be the right dosage. Do I need X and do I need this? So that was a little bit different. I do think that counselors and therapists are awesome. I have seen counselors and therapists before, and I think that they work. They provide an outlet where you can safely talk to someone without feeling the repercussions of someone's judgment. But
that's awesome. So how do you feel about, so like, I feel like I don't really struggle with seasonal depression. I mean, I think we all have ups and downs where we kind of feel like low, but I feel like I don't struggle too much more during the winter times. So for me, like, I feel like if we, like, how do you feel about, okay, this perspective that I'm going to say. So when we not only look at the habits that trigger us and change up and do things that make us maybe more joyful, seeking out friends, help, whatever, but what about like, since you fully know now that you get more low or depressed when winter hits, changing your mindset and perspective on it before that time comes. Like, instead of thinking, okay, this is how it's going to be, I'm going to feel worse, I'm going to feel more depressed. What if you like talked to yourself and just viewed it differently? Does that make sense? Like, it's like, because you're instilling in your mind that it's going to be worse than it is, therefore it is worse.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that say that what you think about is how how you're going to act, no matter how much you convince yourself not to. Like, for example, if you say, I don't want to eat, or I don't want to spend money, instead of, I should save money for this trip, or, and, you know, more of a positive, not necessarily putting a limitation. If you say, I don't want to be, or I don't want to eat this, I don't want to spend money, they actually say that leads to more of that, more of you experiences that, more of you eating, et cetera, et cetera. And so prepping yourself, I don't necessarily prep myself. I make myself aware that it's going to happen. And what I try to do is, instead of like mentally getting myself ready for it, it's more of just being like, okay, well, I know I'm going to experience it. Why don't we just start making yourself busier? Find projects to do, find books that you want to read, things like that. Things that maybe normally in the summer or the spring or something like that I'm not going to do because I have other activities to participate.
Yeah. What's like anything and everything that you've done that has helped you, like specifically, other than golf and eating better? Yeah.
So those are the two main ones, right? I mean, that helps with just depression in general. I don't have to take medication mainly because of how much I work out, how much I'm out and about. But for seasonal depression, I mean, making sure that I spend some time reading. I enjoy reading books, whatever my main focus is. For example, right now I'm in sales, so I'm reading books on selling methods, or even how to communicate with people, books like that. That keeps my mind going, right? It keeps you away from those negative thoughts. And to keep my body active, I mean, I make sure that my gym routine is there. I make sure that I'm constantly doing that. At this point, if I have a day off, I can feel that. I can feel that slump. And I kind of have to like hone the edge, right? Hone the edge of the mental sword and make sure that my body's physically active to kind of help with that. I think the biggest one for me is staying away from alcohol.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I actually, nowadays, I don't drink much.
And this is because of the depression, seasonal depression?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I've learned that I'm a 10 times better person, 10 times better man, 10 times better in my relationships with my family when I don't drink. I mean, I drink at social occasions, right? I participate, I drink to the point where I feel comfort knowing that, okay, I've done my social deed. But the getting drunk, unless it's a special occasion, I don't do it. I don't like to drink every weekend. I don't, just because of the way it makes me feel, right? It throws off your eating cycle. It throws off your sleep cycle. It throws off your how your body physically feels. What that leads to is you breaking routines, you falling into kind of like a little bit of a hole. And then you have to like work yourself back out of that. And working yourself back out of that, it might take me all week. And then just imagine that if you did it again, where you go out to the bar the next weekend. Well, then the next week you're doing the same thing. You're trying to build yourself out of that hole. And it's a never ending cycle that I don't want to get into.
So you really just stay away from the alcohol. Has there been any times when there's a day, maybe you have off from work or maybe you are working, but where like, you should be getting into the habit of doing more things that keep you busy, but you just really don't want to. Like, you have to force yourself to do those things. Like, is there any days where it's like way like worse than other days where, like, I'm just thinking of the person who they know that they should be doing things to keep them busy, make them happier, like do something that they enjoy, but they just mentally, maybe physically, they just don't want to get out of bed. What would you say to that person? Yeah,
so I would say that it's hard for somebody who doesn't experience it to understand what it feels like. It does happen, and it happens a lot. And from my end, with having the depression that amplifies the seasonal depression, winters can be pretty bad for me as far as me having to fight that. I have to fight that feeling every day. There's days where I have to go with the model of just do it because you have to, right? You're obliged in some, whether it's work or whether it's fitness, whether it's your family, you're kind of obligated to doing that, and you have to just do it. it feels like a just pressure, an overwhelming pressure, or a kind of not dread in a sense, but like a growing concern for you to be like, I should do this. I really know I should do this. But when you're telling yourself that, you're just kind of diving deeper and deeper into the mud. I mean, I would just say, like, for me, I just start out with something small. For example, if I know that I have to construct a proposal and I'm in one of those moods, right? Well, the first step is looking up that customer's account. Second step might be after I go grab a glass of water or something like that to procrastinate or get me moving, is pull up the customer's current equipment, and then just slowly get into it to where all of a sudden I'm 4 steps in and then I'm mentally engaged in it and I just want to get it done. So I would just say start with little things.
Yeah.
Just do something small. Don't try to dive in head first and just be like, I'm going to do this. This is going to feel great. I have to do it. And, give yourself a fake sense of purpose in it, because if you're doing something or you want to do something for yourself, you have to feel passionate about it. You have to, it has to be natural, or else you're never going to be totally there, engaged. So
yeah, I like how you say to start small. Like, just start small and start to do something, because then maybe hopefully that'll, and yeah, just like the just do it mindset. Does it help, like, knowing that it's going to just make you feel a little bit better once you start to do some of those things?
Oh yeah. I mean, at the beginning, right, you can't really, I struggle anyways to tell myself, if you do this, it's going to feel great afterwards. It's really hard to tell yourself that, right? You have your mind telling you otherwise. It's saying, nope, this is going to be awful. The whole thing is going to be awful. But that feeling that you get after you do accomplish a task, for example, me selling something, making it, like, for me, the biggest thing is helping my customer, right? I don't really care too much about the money, right? The money is going to come with me providing for that customer. Well, if I sell them and they enjoy it and I get the feedback that they love it and install went great, that's a great feeling to me. That's accomplishment, right? I helped that business. I helped that person, or I helped them move forward. That's awesome to me. So at the beginning, not so much. Yeah, it's really hard to convince yourself because of the reward. And I think that's where I've struggled in starting things in my life, is convincing myself that there is a reward at the end of this. If I put in this hard work, it's going to be a reward. But when I do hit those and when I do achieve that, it's great. It's awesome. It feels wonderful.
Yeah, I can relate. That makes sense. What about, so you said about 3 years ago is when you started noticing that it was worse in the wintertime. Do you feel like from that point up until now, each year it's getting, like, you're able to handle it more, like, better and better, and it's getting maybe a little bit easier and easier? It's about the same every year?
No, once you make the conscious effort, I think, in my opinion, to realize that you're experiencing it and finding ways of helping yourself, like your trigger points and everything like that, it gets easier. So for me, I still have those days. I still have the days that I go through it, but they're a lot less than what they were 3 years ago. They're less severe than they were 4 years ago. And now, I mean, it's to the point where, like, I can't remember if last year I felt a lot of it. It's to the point where it's not severe enough for me to do anything besides brush it off and forget about it 2 weeks later.
Yeah. Okay. So I talked with someone today. It's funny that this came up actually right before this conversation. But so yesterday I shared on my social media that it's okay to be sad, even if you don't have a specific reason. And I think that's important to know during this time, especially like when there is seasonal depression. Like, it's okay to be sad, to be down. And I was talking with a friend who, he does the training sessions at Anytime Fitness, but he felt the same way today. Like, he just felt down, low vibe. He felt like, I think that he actually did feel like he wanted to cry. But he told me that there's like this stereotype. This was after me and you talked. Or maybe it was before, I don't remember. But he feels there's a stereotype of guys and feeling like it's weak to cry or to show emotions or to talk to someone. So like, what is like coming from a male when I feel like, I don't know if you feel the same way, but there kind of is, especially in society, and it's kind of maybe not looked down upon, but it is kind of maybe weak to, it's just more common for females to feel more emotional and sensitive and cry and all of those things.
Oh yeah. I would say that's actually a big problem with our society. I mean that the male masculinity stereotype it's one that I would think is fake. We all have or know of someone who has a grandpa or somebody like that who's this stone-faced, hardened, says 3 words, and you would never know what he's thinking or what his issues are. Now, maybe that's just how he was raised and everything like that. Maybe he never had those issues because they say that, mental health has been increasing in prevalency throughout the decades. But nowadays, when it is social media driven and there's so much more, you post your life online essentially, and everybody can see it, and you're being judged and you're being viewed and stuff like that. And that idea of having to have all these eyeballs on you and have that I have to stay cocooned is causing more issues in men than it is helping. So for me, one of my things that I experienced is when I was going through that, identifying my depression and, trying to figure out how to help myself. It actually is how do I want to say this? A rehabilitation method for me to openly talk about it. I mean, it's helped me in so many aspects of my life that now I can openly talk about it. And the whole idea that you're weak to share it, I just kind of laugh at it because I have felt the strongest that I've ever been mentally and that I've ever been socially and even physically when I am open about it. I don't have to hide it. I'm not sitting there expending my energy holding something in, because I've made it a point to just openly express it, whether that's with a significant other. I'm openly expressing that, hey, this bothers me. Hey, I'm having these sort of anxietal concerns about this. Being open about it and talking with people about it, and so has given me more personal strength. I don't view it as a weakness at all. I'm so open about it now that I don't even think about it.
That's awesome. What helped you get into that mindset?
Yeah, so I think that just comes from a personal mindset. Something that I've always had. I've always wanted to find a way to be a better person, I guess, in a sense. So seeing something's wrong with me, right? In my mindset was more of, this is wrong with me. Let's work on it. Let's develop a way to train your mind back into shape, essentially. I just tried to find methods that would help me, the methods that would allow me to be a better person, essentially. The goal was to be a better person.
That's amazing. What were some of your methods? Books, listening to things?
Yeah, so I come from a family of doctors. My brother's a doctor, my mom's a doctor. My dad is probably one of the smartest people I know, but he's a pro golfer, not a doctor or anything. He does have a major in psychology, but I had a lot of access to like doctoral articles and stuff, which are easily accessible online. You can definitely find articles on different areas of different studies and stuff like that to help. But I read about it. I learned different situationals. I've talked to my mom, who gets information from other doctors and stuff about it. I guess a lot of reading to make myself knowledgeable in the topic. And then
the topic of, just to clarify, like the topic of
depression.
Depression.
Yeah.
And then being more open about talking about it. Like by you reading things that helped you.
Yeah. So that actually was kind of one of the neuropsychologist's ideas. I only met with her like twice, but she brought it up to those, one thing that could help would be talking about it. And then what I did from there was I just started opening up a little bit by a little bit, but it was a little bit of trial and error in relationships.
Oh yeah.
So like, I'm a very intense person. There are times where my intensity gets to a level that most people don't know or see in themselves. So
like
it's
anger, or what do you mean?
not in anger. I can be intense about anything. I can be intense about sports. I can be intense about lifting. I can be intense about work. Mm-hmm. But it's an intensity or a feeling that a lot of people don't ever experience in their life. So I can be very put off, especially if it is anger, right? I mean, anger is probably the one where people are like, oh gosh. So nothing ever bad. It's just an intensity that people are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, this guy's really determined here. It's not something I'd ever do.
Yeah.
And so in those situations, where I was like opening up and trial and error in relationships, I mean, there's some times where the feedback that I thought I was going to get wasn't what I expected. So kind of trial and error.
Like in a bad way?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you kind of open up and you're like, oh, great, I'm going to open up to this person.
Yeah.
The response is going to be, they're concerned, they're going to help, they're et cetera. And it might be a completely opposite response. It was a lot of trial and error.
But then being open to trying again, even if it's not what you, instead of closing off.
And not only that, but in relationships, if you are open and it doesn't work, that's probably more beneficial to do it then than it is to down the road when you don't open up and you bottle it in and then all of a sudden explodes into something nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just kind of doing that and realizing at that point that my relationships were getting better. I started reading about it more. I started understanding my own feelings. One of the big things I struggled with even growing up was understanding social feelings. Just a thing. I maybe broke up with a girlfriend in middle school, and I didn't understand why she was so upset and I wasn't really feeling anything, right? Just because I would ask my mom, I was like, am I supposed to feel this way? Like, I don't know. So when I got older, certain emotions I had never experienced before, I had to learn what they were in a sense and figure out, okay, well, what's the best way of
like handling it?
Yeah.
And you learned through reading, talking to your mom, talking to other people about it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Understanding situations. Yeah. I mean, some of the best things of learning or teaching, right, is personal experiences from other people. You get to hear about a situation, maybe apply it to yourself, their teaching or their thoughts on it, see if that works for you. Doesn't, go ahead and find something else. But you weren't just going to pull that information magically from yourself. Right. I mean, maybe you can develop it yourself, but that takes a lot more time and like effort and hard work and maybe a little bit of personal struggles to get that. But finding that information elsewhere really helped me. Yeah.
And how old are you?
I am 26, turning 27 here in a couple days.
Okay. How old were you when you started kind of diving into reading more about feelings, but more importantly, opening up about it and feeling okay, especially coming from a male. How old were you when you first started that?
I had to be 22 to 23. Okay. I think that's really when I started doing it because I had a lot more personal time because I wasn't in relationships or any successful relationships anyways. So I had a lot more personal time to kind of build on myself.
Gotcha.
I would say that's some time frame.
That's awesome. What would you tell if you were with a guy who he told you how he feels like he just feels, low, down, depressed. He doesn't want to talk about it. He feels like he wants to cry maybe, but he says, I've never cried before. It's not my thing. I'm not going to, I'm just going to hold it in. Whether it's advice or something that you would one thing you would tell him.
Yeah. I'd tell him to go watch some sad animal videos.
To go cry.
No, for me, I make an effort to probably cry every week.
That's amazing.
I do. And whether that's me sitting in my car outside my house after I'm coming home from the gym and I'm watching veterans coming home surprise videos or sad animal videos or something. I think that you live your fullest life if you experience every emotion. And those tears,
couldn't agree more.
Those tears aren't necessarily, sadness. It's not like I'm bawling my eyes out because girlfriend left me or, because I'm sad or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like I make a conscious effort to make sure that I know that when I need to express those emotions, it is totally fine. Now, most of the time I do it in private. Like it is a private experience with myself. Like I don't think my girlfriend's ever seen me cry. I don't think she's ever seen me cry at all. But I tell her every time I do, oh, babe, I was just watching this video. This puppy was trapped and it got saved, and I start crying. I tell her. I tell her every time, just because, she needs to understand that I'm human. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Hiding in your emotions makes it seem like you're less human.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would probably tell him to
go watch something.
Well, he has to do it in private by himself. He needs a group. Just go let it out. Whether you let it out as crying, if it's sadness, if you're feeling sad, just go do it. You'll feel 100 times better after you bawl your eyes out.
Seriously, I couldn't agree. Oh my gosh, I'm just like, so happy.
It's true though. Like I'll tell you this, I get super energetic when I do it. Like when I get out of the car and I'm like trying to hide my swollen eyes, right? And I get into the house and 2 minutes later, I'm bouncy. I'm excited. I feel better. Not necessarily because I wanted to cry, right? I just stumbled upon some video that made me cry. But no, I would say just do it. You don't have to openly express it to everybody.
Yeah, or anyone.
To anyone. Yeah. Do it in private. Don't try to hold it in with yourself. Like, what are you trying to prove to yourself? Yourself already knows that you want to do it.
Yeah.
So just do it. You will feel better. 100 times better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that why you make it a point to do it at least once a week? Because you just feel better.
Yeah. It also comes from one of the famous speeches from a basketball coach ever, Jimmy Valvano. Great college coach. He was diagnosed with, I believe it was cancer, passed away, but he won an award. And he, in that speech, says, I make an effort to, it's like laugh, cry, and do, I want to think what it was. Laugh, cry, and something every day. I make a point of me to do those 3 things every day. Because in his mindset, if you can do those 3 things every single day, man, you've lived a full life. So whether that's crying from sadness or crying from happiness or crying for, oh man, what a sweet moment or anything like that, I think it helps you live better.
100%. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I love that. I know for me, when like yesterday, after I cried, I just felt like crying, so I cried in my car. But I felt better.
Oh, yeah.
I felt way better. And then today was a great day.
Yeah, I think it changes your if you hold it in, right, you're in that perpetual state of holding it in tension. Your energy's going there, and that's negative. Mm-hmm. Once you release it, you not only do you start back at neutral, but you normally go up to a positive vibe or a positive energy within yourself. Mm-hmm.
That is awesome.
Now, you say you don't experience any seasonal depression.
Right.
Do you think that's because of your routine? How busy you are throughout the day? Do you think you make it a priority on your own mental wellness that's kind of prevented you from experiencing that?
Yeah, I just feel like I've always handled my down days pretty well. Like I think it's a part of having a routine, but my priorities in life, like health and wellness, making sure I move my body every day, eating definitely is a huge factor in that. The things that I read and listen to, like what you listen to, what you read, what you put into your brain and your mind, makes a huge difference. Like if you just listen to the news or like just like negative things all the time, like your outlook on life and perspectives is just not going to be as good. I started at a really young age, I feel like, back in college when I got into more so personal development type stuff and self-help and like learning about whether it's business or relationship or communication skills or just like anything personal development. And I think that has helped me because that's always been my focus, is like wanting to grow myself in some way and listening or reading things that are more positive. So I think also a mix of health and wellness with a mix of that has really helped me, my habits, the routine, but also knowing that it's okay to have down days and it's okay to have sad, be sad. And I have never really, I don't know, I don't like to categorize when I feel down as depression because I don't know if that's truly what it is. Like if it is a little bit, it's not like to the degree of a lot of people who struggle with it probably like more severely than I do. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think the word depression has kind of been watered down over the years.
Yeah.
Especially, lately everybody says, man, I'm just depressed. Mm-hmm. Well, are you actually? Are you actually depressed? Like, are you clinically diagnosed depressed? Because that's a serious issue. Being depressed is a serious issue. Or are you just feeling the blues?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And some people call seasonal depression the blues, which may be true. I usually just do it for when I'm having a bad day, which could be in the summer. It could be any time. Most of the time, seasonal depression is winter. Because that's normally when most people experience it.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. And I think I've just making sure that I do things not only to keep me busy, but things that, like you said, I enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. And also finding passion and purpose in whatever it is that I do. Mm-hmm. Or even just like gratitude. Because I think that a lot of people just kind of go through life, going through the motions, hating their job, hating the people that they work with. But I think that even in that aspect, there's always things that you can find to, like the silver lining, but there's always things that you can learn from it. Whether it is whatever I don't even know. Just, there's always something that, like for me, when I worked at McDonald's and bartending, those were not my passion. I was not created, it was not a purpose of mine, to go out and do those things. But I also realized and made it a point to bring in my passion to those jobs. So like when I talk with people, customer service, it makes me feel good when I'm kind to people or when I make someone's day somehow. And I knew somewhere down the line, these skills that I'm learning, whether it is customer service or learning how to do something on the computer or I don't know, whatever it is, I knew that eventually down the line, it would help me in some way. I believed it. And so I think that also helps too.
So just kind of, having a direction with your behavior in a sense, your totally. Conscious effort goes into your own actions for that day and you have a passion in whatever you're doing. You're kind of taking ownership of your day-to-day activity. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of helped you out as far as, at what it sounds like, avoiding it.
Yeah.
And it's probably, do you experience those down days more when you have maybe a lapse in that routine or that maybe a lapse in that passion or that drive to go do something? Is that normally when you see your down days?
Definitely that. But then also when I don't take time for myself, when I am just constantly doing, like, almost like keeping busy is too much. And usually it's the end of the week, or maybe it's like 2 weeks and then the end of that 2-week period where like just overwhelmed with all of my to-dos, stressors in life. Hormones play a role, how I eat, and if I don't exercise as much. Yeah. But I think the down days, like, I know that they're going to come. And even if I am doing all the right things or all the things that make me happy, I feel like I'll wake up and have a down day and look back and not realize or not know what threw me off. It's just I wake up and that's just what it is. And maybe it's because I didn't cry Like, I needed to cry. Like, last night, I just needed to cry. Or, yeah, last night, I just needed to cry because it had been a long time, you know? So it's like...
It might even be something like I'm not an expert by any means in the field of seasonal depression, but it might just be something where your body needs to reset itself. You know, it's experienced so much high that it needs to hit low.
Yeah.
Just to go back and like balance itself out.
Yeah.
And that might be something. I mean, I wouldn't put that in the realm of seasonal depression. You know, a lot of people that experience seasonal depression, it could be weeks. I mean, it could be the whole winter period where we just feel down and we don't want to do anything. We lose our motivation for everything. And I think just starting with small little things. I mean, I think that's the best thing for the people that are experiencing it. Yeah. And want to learn more about it, read about it. I mean,
plus then you're not like putting a pressure on yourself to get happy or to force in that happiness. Like, you're just starting small with doing something that's going to help at least a little bit. I think having an open mind to learn more about it. And I don't know, mindset to me is huge because we're not really taught about mindset and what we listen to, what we read. And mindset is something that, we're just not really taught about or like taught it. But I think it can really help in this aspect.
Now, you were talking about how you keep a positive mindset. When I'm dealing with seasonal depression, that's one thing too. I make an effort. Now, I don't have a normal daily routine as far as when to do this or anything, but I make an effort that in the morning, don't pick up my phone. It's a big one. I don't.
So glad you said that.
I would rather go take a shower, maybe stretch beforehand, get my breakfast ready and everything like that, and then check my emails and start doing that. But if you wake up, you roll over, you immediately open up your emails, you immediately take a look at what's collapsing on you for the day, you give yourself less time to yourself. You don't spend enough personal reflection or getting your body going and in a good mood. And that really does put a kind of compressing feeling on you.
Totally. And not only that, but like when you look at your phone and you're bombarded with like emails, social media, this person, that person, and then you go to the social media and you're just hitting your brain with like comparison and their life is negative. It could be politics. It could be like, I mean, I've listened to on another podcast, I don't know the name of it, I don't remember it, but they talked about digital depression. Like, it's a thing.
Oh, it is 100% a thing. It's now being studied and they're now finding it more and more. It is a thing. Digital depression is a thing. It's those social media, it's kind of bad, but this was on Joe Rogan's podcast. He was doing it with a social media, the person that did the Social Dilemma.
Oh, yeah.
The documentary. He was meeting with the producer of that, or the guy behind the research. And that guy said that these social media engines are made to essentially what's going to keep you coming back in your eyes, right? For example, YouTube. For a young girl struggling with like an eating disorder, well, they're probably going to pull up more videos of eating disorders, not necessarily helpful videos, because that's what's going to keep their attention the longest. It's the same thing with Facebook. Their ads and even their posts, like their posts are driven by your clicks and what you can see from your friends list. You might be like, well, why haven't I seen anything from, John post anything in forever? Well, that's because you were clicking on 100 other people's profiles more often. So John's posts are left in the dust. Yeah. Well, John's post might be positive and these other people are just more controversial and you're interested in what they're saying. So social media can definitely drive that negative feeling if you spend too much time on there.
Yeah. I've even felt that. Like, I'll look on social media and for me, I'm really good about not looking at it in the morning. I try and tell people or encourage people to not look at it right away in the morning or to challenge them to not look at it right in the morning for like a week and see how you feel, because you don't feel that like down state right away. Plus you're giving that energy and priority to someone else, to someone else's day, and just like some other human, and you want to do that for yourself,
Yeah,
it's gonna play a huge role.
Even if you don't respond, like even if you're not commenting to someone, or even if you don't even respond to that email or anything like that, I mean, it's just that energy that you're giving out there to something else. You aren't spending any energy on yourself. And we talk a lot about energy, but it's true.
Yeah.
Your focus and where your direction is, I guess, directed is big and important in mental health.
Yeah.
I would say if that the whole idea of focusing on yourself leads to a positive outlook. 100% is true.
Yeah.
I feel it every day.
Yeah. So. I think that's one thing that people can do then, is to not look at social media as much, not right away in the morning, because that's going to really affect it, I think, even more and more. Do you go on social media less during the wintertime because or is it about the same, or? Yeah,
so different types of social media. So I use different platforms. So, I have my Snapchat, I have my Instagram, I have my Facebook. Well, first of all, I never go on Snapchat. I hate Snapchat.
Delete the app.
I still make funny photos every once in a while to my friends, or receive them. Yeah. But I'm not a person that's going to keep streaks or anything like that. But Instagram, Facebook, I actually go on those less often than I do now as a young business professional. Things like LinkedIn, or even, my personal work group, Teams group, because those are kind of more focused on positive things. You might see a business's solution that they came up with that's providing some positive effect in some area, or like our Teams groups, you're seeing everybody's successes within your own team. Those are more positive, right? You're getting more of a positive influence. And then, for example, we just went through the presidential debate. Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all those were a war zone there for a few weeks. It was awful. So I think it just depends on what social media you're looking at. I mean, it's all driven to just grab your attention and keep it. So focus on limiting or filtering what you're doing there. Yeah. And then that'll help.
What about the people that you hang out with and surround yourself with? Do you feel like that is a factor? Like, it helps, doesn't help?
Oh, yeah. When I went through my own personal dilemma there and started having depression issues, and one of the things that I did to grow was actually I cut ties with anybody that I got pretty cutthroat about it too. If I felt that their behavior wasn't anything that was valuable as an asset to me, gone. I mean, there's people that I was really close friends with that
just, good for you.
Just cut them because it was
not serving.
Whether it was drinking too much, like they drank way too much. They might be successful in their, professional life or anything like that, but they might drink too much. So socially, they are out of control, and they might be the person, that asks for tons of advice but never listen, and aren't really providing you a benefit when you're there. Like they aren't. It sounds terrible listing friendships as benefits and pros and cons kind of deal, but it's true, right? I mean, your closest friends are not only the friends that you can share stuff with, they share stuff with you, right? Your closest friend isn't somebody that goes, tell me all of your secrets, but I'm going to keep you at arm's length. That's not your best friend, right? Your best friend's a person that you're completely open with each other. Well, that's kind of a pros and cons, right? You label, okay, well, I can tell them, they can tell me, I can help her, she can help me. The same way with how I got rid of my friends. It was just kind of like I'm sitting there helping them and devoting so much energy and seeing the same things, and I feel exhausted just talking about it. Boom, gone. They aren't helping me. They aren't being there when I need them. Could I trust them if they needed to be there for me? Those kind of questions, if it was even a question, really, I just cut the...
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you feel like it helps? Like,
yeah. Right now I'm kind of in the... Used to have a lot of friends. You know, I'm putting up air quotes because I used to have a lot of people that knew me because of social situations and, you know, that I would get along with and I knew. And I think now, I mean, I'm down to like 5 friends and maybe 6 to 8 acquaintances because of that cut. Because there's a lot of social groups that I used to hang out with that, you know, their main get-togethers drinking or their main, you know, it's a social outing every time they get together and stuff like that. And I may go indulge in that once a year or once every 3 months or something like that. But it's not like, oh, they're going to this place, I gotta go, or anything like that anymore. Definitely kept it to my friends that have the same, you know, professional interests, personal interests, same morals. That's big
values.
for me. Yeah.
Okay.
That I know care about me as much as I care about them, and they'd help me, and I've seen it, personal experience with them. You obviously develop that over developing a friendship.
Yeah.
But I know I've never had to question whether they're going to be there if I need their help. So.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it's really important to be surrounded by people who, I mean, bring you up, but like have the same values and stuff and mindset and support you. And yeah, so I agree.
Yeah, and I think that actually plays a big, huge role in the seasonal depression too, right? I mean, you have your friend group that, well, if you, for me, right? I obviously can't golf in the winter around here, but so how do I fill that time? Well, I fill that time with my friends. I mean, that social group is one of the things that keeps me active, right? So make sure that you have beneficial friends and use them as like an outlet for energy or an outlet to keep moving or keep something going, whether it's game night or whether it's maybe you guys have a favorite hobby that you like to do together. But just because that can keep you moving. I mean, it keeps your mind away from it. I mean, one afternoon's one afternoon of not feeling like that, and it helps you keep a positive vibe. So.
Yeah, totally. What would be like if you were to think about like the top 2 to 3 to 4 things that you would want someone to take away from everything you shared about seasonal depression, things that have helped you, top 2 to 4 things that you want someone to like walk away with?
Yeah. Understanding that it's okay to display emotion. That's number 1. That's huge. You have to. You are not weak by displaying emotion because you can display emotion to yourself. That's the biggest thing. Display it to yourself by far. Number 2 is educate yourself and learn to identify it. Know that it's happening. Understand what your triggers are. Number 3 would be take small steps. Don't think that you'll just be able to dive right into a new routine or something like that. Learn how to take those small steps to become better or at it, right? You become better at overcoming that obstacle. You might just feel just a tiny bit better, right? But the goal is that the next winter you feel that tiny bit better permanently. And then I would say 4 would just be understand that everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people go through it. You're not alone. It's okay to openly talk about it to people. I mean, it could be random people in the gym or wherever you are. I mean, there's probably somebody in your office or somebody at your workplace or somebody that's experiencing the same thing. Yep. Talk about it and make it an open conversation. Have you ever tried journaling? Like writing things down? I can't do it. I have ADHD. Okay. I can't stay focused. I have my daily routine because I don't, that's different. But when I try to become too organized or everything like that, I'm a chaotic neutral for sure. I am so chaotic in my organizational skills that it's crazy. If I try to journal or anything like that, I may be able to do it for like 3 days, but I can't do it for a long period of time before I just get overwhelmed with certain things and forget about it. Okay, I gotcha. I was just curious, just popped into my mind. Is there anything else that you wanted to share, say, ask me? I don't know. I can't think of anything else. I think we kind of covered it all. I mean, I got to share my experience a little bit, and I I hope that can help some people.
Yeah, I think it will, for sure. Okay, so I like to ask this question at the end, but to you, what does it mean to flow with the grow?
Yeah, so you brought this up to me.
Yeah, I
asked.
know. It's good that you asked. Yep.
So I was kind of thinking about it, and obviously this statement that everyone knows is go with the flow.
Yeah.
Right? So flow with the grow means to me anyways, is to don't resist your growth, right? Don't put the brakes on something if you start noticing a change, because you don't necessarily, at that moment in time, you don't necessarily know if that's positive or negative, or you're growing in some direction, right? Let it go. Let it go. Understand that 2 months from now, that growth is going to be a completely different result. Don't try to consciously think about it every day. Just maybe, give it some time. Do a time interval where you do some self, just reflection to see what that growth was. But don't try a conscious effort to do it every day. Yeah. Putting that much strain on your mental is way too burdened to actually lead to anything positive. So
that's a really good perspective of that. Good answer. I like that. Okay. Well, thank you so much for for taking time to do this and talk about it.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. This is a personal topic that I actually have a lot of passion for. So
thanks
for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. Maybe we'll have to do it again sometime.
Let's do it.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Flow with the Grow. I'll see you next week for your daily dose of positivity and growth.